The air in Charleston was thick and sweet, like a southern peach at its peak. But the sweetness felt sticky and fake to me. It was Caroline's wedding day. My younger sister, her big day. Everyone called it. Everything was perfect. Too perfect? The grand ballroom shimmered. Chandeliers hung like giant glittering tears from the high ceiling. White roses were everywhere. Their smell almost too much. Guests drifted by in expensive clothes. Their laughter sounded light and easy. A stark contrast to the heavy knot in my stomach. I sat alone at table 14, my assigned seat. It was the singles table. Of course. It was tucked away behind a big velvet-covered column, right next to the kitchen doors. I could hear the clatter of plates, the hushed voices of the catering staff. It was a constant reminder of my place. Hidden. Almost an afterthought. Just out of sight. That's how it always felt with Caroline and with my family. I was the one you brought but didn't quite show off. If this story touches your heart, please subscribe to the channel and share the video. It truly helps me grow and allows me to keep sharing stories like this. Earlier, Caroline had made sure to introduce me to Preston's relatives. Preston was her new husband. His family was important. Rich. Fancy. She'd pulled me over, her arm around my waist, a practiced smile on her face. Her voice was too bright. Too loud? This is my older sister. Evelyn, she'd said. She's the career woman. The one who hasn't found anyone yet. She said it like it was a joke. A punchline. Her eyes twinkled with a cruel amusement. Preston's aunt. A woman with tight, perfect hair, had given me a pitying look. A small, sad smile. "Oh dear," she'd murmured. That was it. That was my introduction. My label. The single. Sad older sister. The one left behind. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. My smile felt frozen. Stiff. I wanted to disappear. To melt into the expensive carpet. To just vanish. But I couldn't. I was stuck. Trapped at this beautiful, terrible wedding. I had come all this way from New York. I had bought the dress. The shoes. I had tried. I really had. To be happy for her. To be part of it. But every moment was a fresh cut. A reminder of everything I wasn't. I watched Caroline and Preston dance their first dance. They swayed under the soft lights. Everyone clapped. Everyone cheered. It was a fairy tale. Her fairy tale. And I was just a background character. A prop. A warning. Maybe. Don't end up like Evelyn. The music swelled. A string quartet played something romantic. I took a sip of my champagne. It tasted like ash. I looked around the table. Other singles. 2 distant cousins I'd never met. An elderly uncle who kept falling asleep. A friend of Preston's who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. We were the rejects. The misfits. The ones who didn't quite fit the picture. I closed my eyes for a second. Just a second. I wanted to cry. But I wouldn't. Not here. Not now. I had to hold it together. just for a few more hours. Then I could go back to my hotel room. I could breathe. I could be myself. The real me? The one who wasn't just the career woman who hasn't found anyone yet. The one who had a life. A good life. A life I worked hard for. But here in this room, none of that mattered. Here, I was just a failure. I stood up slowly. My dress felt heavy. Too tight. I needed air. I needed to leave. I started to gather my small clutch. My phone. My car keys were in it. I could make an excuse a headache. A sudden call from work. Anything. Just to get out. My heart pounded. I felt a desperate urgency. I couldn't take another minute of this. Another glance. Another pitying smile. Just as I took a step, a deep voice whispered behind me. It was close. So close. I felt the warm breath on my ear. It sent a shiver down my spine. Not a bad shiver. Just a surprise. Act like you're with me. His hand brushed mine lightly, calmly, deliberately. It wasn't a grab, not a push, just a gentle touch, a signal. It was so unexpected, so out of place in my lonely, humiliating night. That single sentence, those 5 simple words, they changed everything. Caroline always knew how to make me feel small. It wasn't always obvious. Sometimes it was just a look, a tone, a way she'd bring up my work, my career. She'd twist my independence into something negative, a flaw, a reason why I was alone. She did it constantly. It was her favorite game, and it had been going on for years. You'll find someone, Evie, she'd say, her voice dripping with fake concern. She'd pat my arm. Maybe once you stop being so focused on work. She'd say it at family dinners, at holiday gatherings, always when my parents were within earshot. They would hear it and they would look away. My dad would clear his throat. My mom would find something fascinating to look at on her plate. Too polite to intervene. Too uncomfortable to challenge Caroline. Or maybe they agreed with her. That was the thought that always hurt the most. They never defended me. Never said, "Leave your sister alone, Caroline." Or, "Evelyn's career is amazing." It was always silence. Their silence was agreement. It was abandonment. I worked hard. I really did. I built my career from the ground up. I loved my job. It was fulfilling. It gave me purpose. But to Caroline, it was just an excuse. An excuse for why I didn't have a husband or kids or the perfect life she thought I should have. The life she had? This wedding was the peak of it all. Her grand performance. She had planned every detail, every moment. And part of that plan, I realized, was to highlight my single status, to make sure everyone knew it. It was her way of shining even brighter by dimming my light. The reception hall was buzzing. Everyone was laughing. Clinking glasses. The air was full of champagne bubbles and happy chatter. But every laugh felt like it was at my expense. Every glance felt like pity. I tried to join conversations, to smile, to act like I belonged. But my heart wasn't in it. How could it be? When the person who was supposed to be my closest ally, my sister, was actively working against me? The DJ's voice boomed over the speakers. All right, ladies, it's time for the bouquet toss. A ripple of excitement went through the room. All the single women gathered on the dance floor. I felt a familiar dread, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. This was it. The moment. I tried to shrink into my seat, to become invisible, but it was no use. And we have a special lady joining us today, the DJ announced. His voice was a little too enthusiastic, like he was in on the joke. Evelyn, Caroline's wonderful older sister. Come on up, Evelyn. My head snapped up. No, he wouldn't. But he did. He called my name. My heart started to pound. A slow, heavy drum. Thump, thump, thump. I saw Caroline. She was standing on the stage, beaming. Her white dress flowed around her. Her veil shimmered. She looked like an angel. A beautiful, cruel angel. She looked directly at me and she smirked. A small knowing smile. A flicker in her eyes. It was pure malice. My parents were watching. My mom gave me a small, encouraging wave. My dad just looked uncomfortable. Still, neither of them moved to stop it, to save me. I was on my own. As always. I had to go. There was no choice. I stood up. My legs felt heavy, like lead. I walked towards the dance floor. Each step was a battle. I could feel eyes on me. Dozens of them. Cameras flashed. Little bursts of light. Capturing my humiliation. For eternity. I stood with the other single women. They were all giggling. Excited. Most of them were younger. Caroline's friends. They didn't know me. Didn't know the history. They were just having fun. And I was standing there, a monument to my own failure. Caroline turned her back to us. She counted down. 1, 2, 3. She threw the bouquet, and she threw it away from me deliberately. I watched it sail through the air, over my head, past my outstretched, hopeful hand. It landed with a soft thud in the arms of one of Caroline's bridesmaids, a girl I barely knew, who was already engaged. But Caroline didn't care, as long as it wasn't me. The room erupted with laughter. Loud. Booming. Cruel. It wasn't just a gentle chuckle. It was a full, unrestrained burst of mirth. Everyone laughed. My family. Her new in-laws. Even some of my own distant relatives. They laughed at me. At my empty hands. At my flushed face. It wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. It was a clear public statement. A confirmation. I was the one who wouldn't catch it. The one who wasn't meant to. The one who was truly alone. The laughter felt like physical blows. Each sound hit me hard. It echoed in my ears. I felt my face burn. My eyes stung. I wanted to run. To hide? To just disappear from this place. This beautiful, terrible place. Caroline had won again. She always did. I stood there for a moment. Frozen. Lost in the swirling eddy of embarrassment. The bridesmaids were congratulating the girl who caught the bouquet. Someone was shouting about an engagement. But all I could hear was the ringing in my own ears. The sound of my own failure. The laughter started to fade slowly, like a receding tide. It left me exposed. Raw. I took a shaky breath. I needed to escape now more than ever. Then I remembered the voice. The deep whisper. Act like you're with me. And the touch. The light brush of a hand. It had cut through my despair just for a second. A brief interruption in my spiral of humiliation. I turned my head slowly. I scanned the area behind me. My heart was still pounding. But now it wasn't just fear. There was a tiny spark of something else. Curiosity. Maybe. Or a desperate hope. He was there, standing a few feet away. He had a glass in his hand. He was tall. Very tall. And poised. His suit was dark. Expensive. It fit him perfectly. His hair was dark too. A little wavy. His eyes were light. Kind even. And they were looking right at me. He smiled. A slow, easy smile. It wasn't a smirk like Caroline's. It wasn't pity. It was knowing. Like he understood. Like he'd been waiting for me. For my cue. My signal that I was ready. He started to walk towards me. His steps were confident. Unhurried. He moved through the crowd as if he owned the room. People naturally made way for him. He radiated a quiet power. Something I rarely saw. Something I never felt. He stopped right in front of me. His height made me tilt my head back. His eyes held mine. They were warm. And then he spoke. His voice was deeper than I remembered. Smooth. Calm. I'm Julian Sterling, he said. He didn't offer his hand, just held my gaze. I'm Preston's cousin. Preston. Caroline's husband. So he was family. Part of the inner circle. That surprised me. He didn't seem like the type to enjoy this kind of family drama. He paused. His smile widened just a fraction. And your sister, he continued, his voice dropping slightly. Conspiratorially. Just finished warning me that you're hopelessly single. Said I should probably avoid you unless I wanted a lengthy discussion about the benefits of cats over partners. I blinked. My mouth almost fell open. He'd heard. He'd seen. He knew. My humiliation wasn't just something I felt. It was something others witnessed. And he was acknowledging it not with pity, not with judgment, but with a challenge. A playful, unexpected challenge. "Let's fix that," he said. The words were simple, direct, a command almost, but a kind one, a rescuing one. Before I could even respond, before I could process what was happening, he moved seamlessly. He slipped into the empty chair beside me. The chair I had just vacated. The one I had been dreading returning to. He made it look like it was his spot all along. His easy grace made it seem like the most natural thing in the world. He was close now. I could smell his cologne. Something subtle, woodsy, not overpowering. Just a hint of something pleasant. He turned his body slightly towards me. His posture was relaxed, confident. Within seconds, the shift was palpable. Heads started to turn slowly at first, then more directly. People who had been laughing at me a moment ago were now looking at us. At him. At me. With him. Caroline. I saw her across the room. She had been basking in her post-bouquet toss glory. She had been laughing with her bridesmaids. Her back was to me. Now she was turning slowly. Her smile, that perfect, triumphant smile, started to freeze mid-conversation. Her eyes widened. She saw us. Me and Julian. Together. The silence that followed wasn't absolute. The music still played. People still chattered. But to me, it felt like a spotlight had swung onto table 14, onto me and him. And for the first time all night, I didn't want to disappear. I wanted to see what would happen next. Julian didn't waste a second. He just settled in like he belonged there. Like he belonged with me. The empty chair beside me was now filled. The invisible wall I had built around myself started to crack. He turned his body towards me. A natural open posture. And then, without breaking eye contact with me, he did something that instantly changed the energy of the room. He draped his arm across the back of my chair. It wasn't a possessive gesture. More like a casual claim. A subtle declaration. He leaned in slightly, just enough to seem like we were sharing a secret. "So," he murmured, his voice low. "Tell me about this career of yours. Is it as fascinating as your sister made it sound, or even more so?" His eyes twinkled. He was teasing, but it wasn't mean. It was playful, inviting. I managed a small, shaky laugh. A real one. For the first time all night. "It's something," I said. My voice still a little tight. My mind was racing. What was happening? Why was he doing this? He smiled. "Something good. I hope." He started talking. Easy, confident conversation. He asked questions. He listened. Really listened. Not like he was waiting for his turn to speak, but like he genuinely cared about the answers. He made jokes. Small, witty remarks that made me laugh again. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel seen. Not judged. Not pitied. Just seen. Our laughter started to draw attention. It was light. Genuine. It floated above the dull murmur of the room. People glanced over. Then they looked again. His charm was undeniable. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was just there. It disarmed everyone, especially me. I could feel eyes on us. Whispers started. A buzz. The kind of buzz you get when something unexpected happens. Something interesting. My heart was still pounding, but it was a different kind of beat now. Not fear, more like adrenaline. And then Caroline appeared. I saw her coming like a shark circling. Her footsteps were quick, purposeful. Preston was a step behind her, looking confused. Caroline's perfect smile was stretched tight. Too tight. It didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes were narrowed. Suspicious. She stopped by our table. Her voice was sugary sweet, almost cloying. "Evie," she said, her tone dripping with false surprise. "I didn't know you and Julian were friends." She dragged out the word friends, making it sound like an accusation, like it was impossible, like I wasn't allowed to have friends, especially not his kind of friends. Julian, bless him, didn't miss a beat. He turned to Caroline, his smile still easy, charming, unfazed. He didn't even remove his arm from the back of my chair. "Old friends," Julian said smoothly. His voice was calm, confident, like he'd rehearsed it. "We reconnected recently. Haven't you heard? Caroline, the world is a small place." He winked at me. A subtle, quick movement just for me. Caroline's eyes flickered. She was trying to process it, trying to find the lie, to find the catch. Her gaze darted between me and Julian. She looked at his arm behind me. Her mouth tightened. And for once, I didn't shrink. I didn't look at my plate. I didn't feel the urge to disappear. Something in me clicked. Something snapped. It was like Julian had handed me a shield or a sword. I met Caroline's gaze directly, calmly. "I like to keep my private life private," I said. My voice was even, clear. I was surprised at how steady it was. No trembling, no hesitation. Just the words. Simple, direct. Caroline's composure cracked. Just a hairline fracture. But it was there. Her perfect facade wavered. Her smile faltered for a second. Her eyes widened with a mix of surprise and something else. Annoyance, frustration, and a tiny flicker of fear. It was enough. Just enough. It was the first time I had ever seen her truly knocked off balance. And it felt powerful. From that moment on, something shifted inside me. It was like a switch had been flipped. For the first time all night, I wasn't the outsider. I wasn't the pity case. I wasn't the butt of the joke. I was with Julian. And Julian made me feel like I belonged. Like I was worthy of attention. Of respect. He talked with me like we'd known each other for years. His questions were genuine. He remembered my answers. He picked up on little details I mentioned about my work. About my life. He didn't talk over me. He didn't dismiss my thoughts. He engaged. He listened intently. His eyes were focused on mine. It felt incredible. It felt like I was being treated like a person. Not a problem to be solved or an embarrassment to be managed. He kept the act alive with subtle touches that felt almost too natural. His hand would rest on my arm when he laughed. His knee would brush mine under the table. His fingers would lightly tap the back of my chair. Each touch was light, respectful, but firm. They were signals to the room. To me, we are together. Guests who had ignored me before now started to glance our way. Their whispers were different. Not pitying, but curious. They smiled approvingly. It was a complete turnaround. The narrative Caroline had worked so hard to establish the sad, single sister was crumbling right before her eyes. I could see Caroline's bridesmaids, the ones who had mocked me earlier, the ones who had snickered when I didn't catch the bouquet. They kept glancing over. Their laughter was quieter now. Their smiles had faded. There was something in their eyes. Curiosity, and maybe a touch of envy. They were trying to figure us out. Trying to understand how Evelyn, of all people, could be with someone like Julian. My family's pity started to turn first to curiosity. My Aunt Carol, who loved to ask when I was going to settle down, kept looking at us. Her mouth was a little open. My mom and dad, who had been so good at avoiding my gaze all night, now seemed to be watching us with a new interest. A nervous interest. Almost like they were trying to figure out if this was real or if I was somehow embarrassing them in a new, unexpected way. But it wasn't embarrassment. It was intrigue. And then I saw it in some of their eyes. Envy. Caroline herself couldn't stand it. She kept finding excuses to walk by our table. Her eyes would dart towards us. Towards Julian. Towards the easy way, he made me laugh. Towards the way he was looking at me. She tried to make eye contact with me. To get a rise out of me. To pull me back into the old dynamic. But I wouldn't let her. I just smiled. A real smile. One that reached my eyes. A smile she couldn't penetrate. Julian caught my eye once. He gave me a quick, almost imperceptible nod. Like he was saying, "You're doing great." Or, "See, you deserve this." It was a quiet affirmation. A silent cheer. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was in control. Not of the whole room, not of the whole situation, but of my situation. I wasn't reacting to Caroline's jabs. I wasn't shrinking from her cruelty. I was simply existing with someone who made me feel good. Someone who treated me with kindness and respect, even if it was just an act. Even if it was just for a few hours. the noise of the wedding reception, which had felt so oppressive before, now just faded into background music. I was focused on Julian, on our conversation, on this strange, wonderful, unexpected performance. And in his presence, I realized something profound. I wasn't pretending anymore. Not really. I was simply being seen. And being seen, truly seen, felt like power. It felt like freedom. The band began a slow song. The lights in the ballroom dimmed a little. A romantic melody filled the air. Couples started to drift onto the dance floor, holding each other close, swaying softly. It was a classic wedding moment. A beautiful one. But for me, it usually just highlighted my aloneness. I watched them. My stomach tightened a little. The old feeling. The familiar sting. I had almost forgotten it for a while. With Julian by my side, I had felt different. Stronger. But now, seeing all the couples, the vulnerability crept back in. This was a dance for partners, not for a woman sitting alone at table 14. Then Julian stood up slowly, deliberately. He didn't say a word at first. He just looked at me. His eyes were warm, inviting. There was a question in them. A silent offer. He extended his hand. His palm was open, waiting. "Dance with me," he said. His voice was soft, just loud enough for me to hear over the music. It wasn't a question. It was a quiet statement. A gentle command. My breath hitched. My heart gave a little flutter. This was it. The ultimate public display. The final nail in Caroline's carefully constructed narrative. It was one thing to sit and talk, to laugh, to pretend to be old friends. It was another thing entirely to step onto the dance floor, to be seen together. I looked around the room. Every head seemed to turn towards us. I could feel the chandeliers above us sparkling. I could feel the weight of all those watching eyes. But this time, it felt different. Not terrifying. Not humiliating. It felt empowering because Julian was with me, and he was offering me a moment I never thought I'd have at this wedding. I reached out my hand. My fingers brushed his. His hand was warm, firm. He pulled me gently to my feet. He led me onto the dance floor. Through the sea of swaying couples, he moved with confidence, with ease. And I followed, trusting him, trusting this strange, wonderful moment. We found a spot near the center, not hidden, not tucked away, right where everyone could see us. He put one hand on my waist, lightly, respectfully. His other hand held mine. My hand felt small in his, but safe. He pulled me a little closer, just enough to be comfortable. Not too close, but close enough to feel the warmth of his body, the strength of his presence. We started to move slowly to the music. He was a good dancer. Smooth. Graceful. I was a little clumsy at first. A little stiff. But he guided me gently. patiently. I tried to follow his lead, to relax into his rhythm. I looked up at him. His eyes were looking down at me. A soft smile played on his lips. "Relax," he murmured. "Just breathe." I took a deep breath. And slowly I did relax. The tension in my shoulders eased. The tightness in my chest started to loosen. I focused on his steps, on the music, on the feel of his hand in mine. Around us, the other dancers blurred. The light softened. For a moment, it was just us moving together in sync. It felt good. Better than I had felt in a long time. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw her. Caroline. She was standing at the edge of the dance floor. Preston was beside her. Her face was a mask. Her perfect wedding day smile was gone. Her eyes were wide, almost disbelieving. She looked furious. Truly, deeply furious. A small, quiet thrill went through me. A spark of satisfaction. It wasn't a mean feeling exactly. It was more like justice. Poetic justice. This was the woman who had tried to erase me, to mock me, to make me feel worthless. And now, her perfect world, her carefully constructed image, was cracking. Julian noticed my glance. He leaned in again. His voice was a low murmur. "Just for me. Your sister looks furious," he said. There was a hint of amusement in his tone, but it wasn't cruel. It was observant. I looked at him. Our eyes met. A silent understanding passed between us. He knew. He understood what this meant. What this dance truly represented. "Good," I said softly. The word surprised me a little. It was so quiet, but so firm. It was honest. Let her see what she tried to destroy. My voice was barely a whisper, but the sentiment was strong, powerful. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about reclaiming something. My dignity. My worth. My ability to stand tall, even on a dance floor in front of everyone, with a stranger who had somehow become my unexpected ally. As we continued to dance, I felt the power shift. It wasn't just a fantasy. It was real. Caroline's perfect world was indeed cracking. And the woman she had mocked, the woman she had tried to diminish, was now the center of attention. Not because I demanded it, but because Julian had offered it. And I had finally, bravely accepted. The slow song continued. Julian and I kept dancing. I felt more confident now, more at ease. His hand on my waist felt like an anchor. His presence was a shield. For the first time, I wasn't watching the room. The room was watching me. And Julian, I saw Caroline moving towards us again. Her perfect white dress swished around her. But this time her movements were sharper, more agitated. Preston was right beside her. He looked uncomfortable. His shoulders were slumped a little. He seemed to be trying to hold her back subtly, but she was determined. She stopped right in front of us. She didn't wait for the song to end. She just stood there. Her expression was a mix of anger and forced sweetness. Her hands were clenched at her sides. I could see them. White knuckles. She was barely holding it together. Her voice trembled a little beneath her fake politeness. "Mind if I cut in?" she asked. It wasn't really a question. It was a demand. Her eyes were locked on Julian. A challenge. Julian didn't flinch. He didn't even hesitate. He kept his arm around my waist. His hand still held mine. He didn't let go. He just looked at Caroline. His face was calm, polite, but firm. "Actually, yes," Julian said. His voice was even, quiet, but it cut through the music. It cut through the thin veneer of Caroline's politeness. It was a rejection. A clear, undeniable rejection. Caroline's eyes widened. She wasn't expecting that. No one ever said no to Caroline, especially not at her own wedding. She opened her mouth to argue, to protest, to demand. But Julian wasn't finished. He didn't shout. He didn't raise his voice. He just spoke calmly, directly. His gaze was steady, meeting hers. "You've spent all night embarrassing your sister," he said. The words were like tiny, sharp knives, delivered softly, precisely. Maybe try supporting her instead. The effect was immediate and absolute. The music still played, but it seemed to fade. The chatter of the guests, the clinking of glasses, it all went silent. Or maybe it just felt that way to me. Everyone around us seemed to stop dancing. Or at least they paused, turning their heads, staring. They had heard it. Everyone had heard it. Caroline's confidence, which had been so unwavering all night, shattered completely. It wasn't just a crack this time. It was a full-blown collapse. Her face went pale. Her mouth opened and closed. No words came out. She was exposed, stripped bare in front of everyone. Preston, who had been standing quietly beside her, finally reacted. He put a hand on her arm. He tugged her away gently but firmly. His face was red with embarrassment. He mumbled something. An apology, maybe. Or a plea. He just wanted to get her away. Away from the glare of all those eyes. Away from Julian's calm, cutting truth. Caroline let him pull her. Her shoulders slumped. Her head was down. She didn't even look back. She just walked away. Defeated. Humiliated. For the first time, she was the one shrinking. She was the one hiding. I stood taller than I had in years. It wasn't a conscious decision. It just happened. My back straightened. My chin lifted. A wave of something powerful washed over me. It wasn't triumph. Not exactly. It was more like a release. The weight I had been carrying for so long. The weight of her judgment. Her cruelty. Her constant undermining. It just lifted. Julian looked at me. His grip on my hand tightened slightly. A reassuring squeeze. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. We just looked at each other. In that moment, surrounded by the stunned silence of the crowd, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and something else. A new kind of strength. A strength that had always been there, perhaps, but one I had never been allowed to fully embrace until now. Until Julian had spoken those simple, direct, undeniable words. After the confrontation, the mood on the dance floor was strange, like a ripple spreading through water. People slowly started dancing again, but the energy had shifted. Everyone was still glancing at us. But now it wasn't just curiosity. It was respect. A little awe. They had seen something. A moment of truth. Julian led me off the dance floor. His hand was still gently at my back. We walked back towards our table. Table 14, the singles table. The table of shame. But it didn't feel like that anymore. It felt like a place of refuge. A place where truth had been spoken. As we approached, Julian paused. He looked around the room. His eyes scanned the tables. He spotted one. A prime table right in the center. Close to the stage where Caroline and Preston's close family were supposed to be sitting. It was empty for some reason. Maybe they were all still recovering from the dance floor drama. He turned to me. A mischievous glint in his eye. "You know?" he said, his voice low. "I think we've earned a better view." Before I could even think, he flagged down a waiter. A young man looking a bit overwhelmed by the chaos of the wedding. Julian spoke to him calmly, politely, but with a quiet authority that clearly got results. "Excuse me," Julian said. "My date and I have some very specific dietary requirements. We can't possibly sit all the way back here. Do you think you could arrange for us to move to that table there?" He gestured towards the prime empty table. "For health reasons. Of course." The waiter, flustered, nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. Right away." He hurried off. "Dietary reasons," I whispered, a small surprised laugh escaping me. Julian just smiled. "Sometimes," he said, "a little creative persuasion is necessary to get what you deserve." Within minutes, our places were reset. Our plates were moved. Our champagne glasses. We walked across the room, past the tables of curious guests, past the lingering glances of Caroline's friends, and we sat down front and center at a table that felt like it belonged to us. Now, everyone could truly see us. And they did. They watched. As Julian talked with me and I talked with him, we were laughing, relaxed, magnetic even. He made me feel that way. Magnetic. He made me feel interesting. Worth listening to. Caroline's friends. Her bridesmaids. They were all whispering to each other, their heads huddled together. Their eyes flickered towards us. I could almost hear their thoughts. Who is he? How does Evelyn know him? Why is she with him? The questions were silent, but they hung in the air. The envy was palpable. They weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at me with a new grudging admiration. Or perhaps just plain confusion. Even the aunt who had earlier said with that pitying sigh, "Oh dear," now looked impressed. Her eyes were wide. She was smiling. A genuine smile. Like she was seeing me for the first time. Not as a problem, but as a catch. It was a strange feeling. Like a dream or a movie. This wasn't my life. My life didn't have these kinds of moments. These kinds of unexpected rescues. But it was happening. It was real. And sitting there at that prime table, bathed in the glow of the chandeliers, I realized something. I wasn't pretending anymore. Not really. Julian had created a space for me. A space where I could just be myself. A space where my worth was evident. Not hidden. Not questioned. I wasn't acting. I was simply being seen. And being seen. Truly seen for who I was. Not for who Caroline wanted me to be. Was the most profound justice of all. It wasn't just public. It was poetic. The universe, through Julian, was finally giving me a moment of light. A moment of recognition. After so many years in the shadows. And it felt like freedom. The kind of freedom I had been craving for so long. The evening was winding down. The cake had been cut. The speeches had been made. The dance floor was still busy, but the energy was starting to mellow. Everyone was a little tired, a little full, a little tipsy. Then the DJ made another announcement. His voice boomed. "All right, gentlemen, it's time for the garter toss." My stomach gave a little lurch. Oh no. Another one. Another moment for single people to be highlighted. To be put on display. Caroline and Preston were already on the stage. Caroline was laughing. Preston looked a little embarrassed. The tradition was for the groom to toss the garter and for the single men to catch it. Like the bouquet. Another chance for public spectacle. A small group of men started to gather near the stage. Some of them were clearly single. Others were just playing along. I braced myself. This was it. Another potential moment of awkwardness. Another chance for Caroline to gloat. To make some veiled comment about my single status. But Julian was still beside me. We were still at our prime table, laughing, talking. His presence was a constant comfort, a quiet strength. He must have seen the apprehension on my face. Or maybe he just knew what this moment meant. Suddenly, he stood up. His chair scraped back slightly. He moved with purpose towards the stage, towards the group of men. My eyes widened. What was he doing? He walked right up to the front, to the edge of the stage. He stood tall. His dark suit looked sharp under the lights. He looked at the other men. Then he looked at Caroline and Preston. He smiled. A confident, easy smile. "Wait. I'll take this one," Julian said. His voice was clear, strong. It cut through the general hum of the room. It drew everyone's attention again. A ripple of laughter went through the crowd. Light. Amused. They loved his confidence. They loved his charm. Caroline and Preston looked down at him from the stage. Caroline's smile was still on her face. A bit forced. Preston just looked confused. Preston, the groom, was holding the garter. He looked at Julian, then at Caroline, then back at Julian. He seemed hesitant, unsure, but Julian was already in position. He was ready. He stood with his hands up, like a baseball player waiting for a catch. He was making a show of it. A performance. But it felt different from Caroline's performances. It felt empowering for me. Preston tossed the garter. It sailed through the air. A little white blur. All eyes followed it. It seemed to hang in the air for a moment. And then, with an effortless motion, Julian caught it cleanly. Perfectly. Like he'd done it 1,000 times. The room erupted in cheers. Loud. Enthusiastic. People clapped. They whistled. They loved it. They loved the drama. The unexpected turn. The confident stranger who was making this wedding so much more interesting. Caroline's face. Oh. Caroline's face. Her perfect smile started to waver. Her eyes narrowed. She had seen him catch it. She had seen the cheers and she couldn't stand it. "Julian," she called out, her voice sharp, cutting. "You're not single." It was an accusation, a desperate attempt to reclaim control. To expose him? To expose me? To remind everyone of the truth she had created. Julian turned slowly. He looked at Caroline. His smile didn't falter. It just softened a little. And then he looked at me, standing at our central table, watching him. My heart was pounding, waiting, anticipating. "Actually, I am," he said. His voice was clear, projecting across the room. Everyone heard it. But maybe not for long. He took a step towards our table. He walked directly to me with the garter in his hand. The white lace. The symbol of good luck. The symbol of marriage. He stopped right in front of me, and then he knelt on one knee right there in the middle of the crowded reception. In front of all of Caroline's shocked guests. In front of my stunned family. He knelt. He didn't pull out a ring. Not yet. This wasn't that kind of proposal. But the gesture itself, the significance of it, the public display of it, it was more powerful than any ring could have been in that moment. He took the garter. Slowly. Delicately. He slid it onto my leg just above the ankle. His touch was gentle. Confident. The confidence of a man who meant every second of this performance. Every gesture. Every word. The room erupted again. But this time, it wasn't just cheers. It was gasps. It was excited murmurs. It was a wave of pure, unadulterated shock and delight. It was beautiful chaos. Caroline's perfect smile finally cracked completely. It shattered. Her face went pale, then red. Her mouth was open, frozen in a silent scream. She stared at us. At me. At Julian kneeling before me. Her moment. Her perfect wedding. It was gone. Hijacked. Not by me, but by the stranger she had accidentally brought into my life. The man who had turned the tables on her. It was the ending they deserved. Not me. Not Julian. But Caroline and my family. They had wanted me to be alone. To be the sad single sister. And now I was the one being celebrated. The one being adored by a man who saw my worth. A man who was willing to make a spectacle of himself to lift me up. To give me this moment. It wasn't justice. It was a reclaiming. A revolution. All on the dance floor of my sister's wedding. The rest of the night passed in a blur. People kept coming up to us to congratulate me. To ask Julian who he was. Where he came from. Caroline and Preston disappeared. I didn't see them again until it was time for their grand exit. They left quickly. Their faces tight. No more smiles. No more laughter. When the night finally ended, Julian walked me to my car. It was parked in the valet lot. The air outside was cool now. A gentle breeze. The loud music of the reception was a distant murmur. We walked in comfortable silence. My head was still spinning a little. From the champagne. From the sheer, unbelievable drama of the night. From Julian. We reached my car. He stopped beside the driver's side door. He didn't open it right away. He just stood there looking at me. His hands were in his pockets. His smile was soft now. Not the performative one from earlier. A real one. Gentle. Well, I said, my voice a little shaky. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I looked at him. Truly looked at him. Thank you for rescuing my dignity. For giving me a night I never thought I'd have. He chuckled softly. Dignity is a given. Evelyn, you never lost it. I just helped you show it. He paused. His eyes searched mine. But who says it was just an act? My breath caught in my throat. My heart gave a leap. I stared at him. Really stared. Had it been an act? All of it? Or had something real? Something unexpected? Truly begun? His eyes were sincere. Warm. Hopeful. What do you mean? I whispered. He reached out. His hand gently touched my cheek. His thumb brushed my skin. A warm, tender touch. I mean, he said, his voice low. I had a pretty great time tonight. And I'd like to have another one. A real one. With you. 3 months later, we were dating. Really dating. Not an act anymore. We went on quiet dinners. We explored art galleries. We talked for hours about our lives, our dreams, our fears. He listened. Always listened. He saw me. All of me. Not just the career woman. Not just the sister. But Evelyn. The real Evelyn. And he liked what he saw. He respected it. He cherished it. A year later, he proposed. Not at a grand wedding. Not with a public spectacle. It was quiet. Private. Just us. At the same hotel where we'd met. The one where Caroline had had her lavish wedding. But this time, it was our moment. Our memory. He knelt again. But this time it was with a diamond ring. A symbol of forever. My answer was an easy, tearful yes. Caroline's reaction? Speechless. When she found out, she called me. Her voice was flat. Stunned. She had nothing to say. No snide remarks. No veiled insults. The sister who'd mocked my singlehood had accidentally introduced me to the love of my life. The irony was sweet, but it wasn't about her anymore. The real victory wasn't the ring. It wasn't finally getting someone. It wasn't even seeing Caroline's shocked silence. The real victory was finally realizing that I didn't need anyone's approval. Not Caroline's. Not my parents'. Not society's. I didn't need to be validated by external measures of success or happiness. I didn't need to be chosen to be worthy. I just needed someone who saw my worth from the start. Someone who recognized the person I was underneath all the layers of hurt and neglect. Someone who wasn't afraid to stand up for me. Someone who believed in me even when I didn't quite believe in myself. And Julian was that person. It wasn't revenge. It was better than revenge. It was freedom. Freedom from the narrative others had created for me. Freedom to define my own happiness. Freedom to be seen and loved for exactly who I was. The career woman. The sister. The woman who finally found her voice and her partner. All because of a whispered sentence at a wedding. And a strong, kind hand that brushed mine.